person that is starting a business, sometimes we don't realize that we have to do everything from the ground up.
Yeah.
I mean, everything, right? I am my secretary. I am my billing. I am everything. And so it happens like that until you start gaining traction and you can start hiring more people out. Mm-hmm. So if you were to speak to a 22-year-old today, what are some tips or like 3 big tips you would give them for starting their own business?
Oh, yeah. Okay. One, I would say find what you're really passionate about. And I know this sounds so cliche, but you can't just start a business just to start a business because you'll burn out. I mean, you burn out even when you're passionate about it.
Yeah.
There are just ebbs and flows. So I would say find something that you're really passionate about and that you're really good at. So find those kind of coupling of things. 2, go for it. So try a lot, fail a lot, and readjust a lot.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah.
That's all kind of clumped into one little thing.
I love that. Yeah.
You know, I think school teaches us that you can't try, that, you know, anything less than perfection is wrong. Because you literally, if you get if you get an answer wrong, it's wrong. There's no partial credit usually.
Yeah.
And so you kind of have to retrain your brain. I would say the third piece is retrain your brain. I still struggle with that. I've been realizing that I'm much more of a perfectionist than I thought I was. And I'm a recovering perfectionist. So you have to retrain your mind that the effort is the thing that counts, not the perfection, because it's never.
I love that. I love that because you're so right. I mean, like we are in this little box in school, and I love school. I love it. I still love educating myself. I'm constantly educating myself, but now it's like I've had that experience to know how to implement in a way, because, you know, experience is everything. And I think on-the-job experience really teaches you so much. So those are great 3 tips. I love that. So you really talked a lot about, you know, mindset and shifting the thoughts and the way we think. So I'm going to dive a little bit deeper into that with you and any limiting beliefs that you might have had or still have. And how do you shift your mindset and how do you move forward? Because it's tough to move forward.
Yeah, it is. Oh, that's a good question. I think one of the things that I struggle personally with is the thought that I'm not good enough. So, and that comes with the perfectionism. And I have this, you know, I always joke, like, I have this idea in my mind of like, I love drawing, doodling, coloring. I'm artsy in that way. But what's in my mind never comes to reality. So like, i.e. I hired Kelsey Budo to do my
you did mine too.
Yes.
She's amazing. Yeah.
She's amazing. And I even played around with like doing my own logo and I'm like, no, like nothing is, I have this vision and it's not coming in there. So I think
shout out to Kelsey.
I know. Yay, Kelsey, we love you. And every time she posts, just an aside, every time she posts a new brand, I'm like, ooh, I should rebrand. I love that because everything she does is amazing. It's gorgeous.
She's awesome.
Yeah. So anyway, but this thing that I'm not good enough and I don't know where it came from, but it's been a recurring thing that I've had to really work out. And I go to a therapist, I go to a counselor and we work through that because it's in my personal life and my, you know, obviously bleeds into my professional life. And so again, it's about changing your mind and finding out what event happened that made me start thinking that. And how do I attack it to where I look at the event and it's just an event now. There's not that emotional thing attached to it. So it's a lot of work.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'll ever be over it, but I think I've made a lot of strides of like, oh, okay, I can do this, you know? And I think it's also surrounding yourself with people like, that's kind of why, part of the reason why I started the entrepreneurial group is to surround yourself with people who, again, are outside of yourself and can see you for your gifts and talents and speak into that. Because I think that helps of like, you know, I work with a business coach and she's like, no, you're actually very good at that.
Yeah, I completely agree. So I'm so glad you brought up StoryBrand because I really want to talk about that. And I want to learn from you how can somebody use StoryBrand to build their business? And at the end, I'm going to ask you for some tips, your top 3 tips on how to build a StoryBrand for yourself.
Yeah.
Or if you have more, you can give more.
Yeah, exactly. So StoryBrand, it's a marketing framework based on the elements of story. So story has compelled the human brain since the beginning of time. I mean, before we had the written word, everything was passed through telling stories.
Yeah.
So our brains are wired to conserve calories and to survive and thrive. So that's what our brain is doing for us. So basically what StoryBrand does is it filters your marketing message through the elements of stories, distills it down so that your customers aren't having to burn calories, and you're showing them that you can help them survive and thrive, whatever that is. So if that's saving time, that's thriving, right? If that's putting an ointment to get your cut better, that's surviving. So, but then it helps you have a really clear message so that your customers aren't having to think a lot. Because as you know, especially nowadays, we have so many decisions we have to make during the day, whether to look into that advertisement or not, whether to turn left, turn right. I mean,
It's
I
a
think
lot.
it's like 30,000 decisions a day or something like that. So if you, for instance, are talking too much about the nitty gritty of your business, let's say years over saying, okay, well, first you need contracts and then litigation and blah, you start throwing out all these law words. Well, us not law-minded people are going to go, too much information, I'm moving on. So I help people get to the basics of what they do. So like yesterday I had a client who I was working with and she was like, people don't understand what I do and here's what I do. And, you know, we were going back and forth and she said, I fix people's business problems.
That's it.
Like, that's what you need to say.
Yeah.
You don't need to say that you're branded niching and strategic blah, blah, blah. Say, I fix your business problems. Oh, okay. So if I'm having a problem with profitability, you help me with that. If I'm having a problem. Okay, so that's what I do with people. We dumb it down so that it's super clear and to the point. So the guy who created this framework, he used to be an author and he started a marketing company and he was like, I can merge these two together because it makes sense. Every story.
What is his name? Can you share that?
Donald Miller. Yeah. So, you know, Don always says, and I think it's so true, people don't buy the best products. They buy the products they can understand the quickest.
Right.
The fastest. So
I'm like seeing how I'm applying this to my life.
Exactly. So a great example of this, when Steve Jobs was launching, I believe it was the first Apple computer. Yeah, because that's what he started with. So he put an ad in the New York Times and it was 8 pages long.
Oh, wow.
And it was talking all about how the computer processed, how fast it was, how much data it held, blah, 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 blah. No sales came from that. He was like, okay, we got to change this up. So he put a 1-page ad, said, think different. Skyrocketed.
Love it.
Skyrocketed sales.
I love that. So if you had to give somebody like a quick, you know, hey, this is the things, or the areas that you can look at, and this is how you can level up on your StoryBrand, what would those tips be? First, I would say read Building a StoryBrand. Really, it's great. It's a very practical book. You can start making changes from reading it. It's interactive because that'll shift your mindset on how you talk about your business. It's not rocket science, but at the same time, it's mind-blowing. Like, this totally makes sense. I need to implement this in my business. So that would be the first thing. Read that. It's on Amazon, on Audible. It's a good read. Second, I would say make sure your website is functional and is not just a placeholder on the internet. So your website is something you can control. Same with email.
things like TikTok and Instagram. I love Instagram. I'm on there all the time.
Yeah.
But the whole point of saying that is
Yeah.
like, you don't want to put all your marketing eggs in a social media platform, So websites and emails are good things to have, because you can control the content. So my thing would be, make sure that your website is acting as part of your sales funnel and not just a placeholder. So having a direct call to action before anyone starts scrolling, tell them how they can buy from you. So I'll just give a little tip. So with the header of your website, answer 3 questions. Before anyone starts scrolling, they should be able to tell what you do, how it will help that person's life, and how to buy. And then don't talk about yourself.
Oh, okay.
And what I mean by that is, you are not the hero. So your customer is the hero of their own story. Everyone wakes up every morning thinking, what problems do I need to solve for myself today? I'm thirsty, I'm going to go get water. Or I want coffee, I'm going to go to Starbucks or my favorite coffee shop. When you start talking about yourself and only yourself, and people come to you and say, oh, you're a hero too. Awesome. I hope you find what you're looking for. I'm going to go the other way and find someone to help me get my problem solved. So it's a shift. Now, that doesn't mean you can't ever talk about yourself. But what I mean is, for example, I'm going to use the website. So no one cares that you started this thing 10 years ago and or you inherited it from your grandfather. And so now no one cares about that initially. They may be like, oh, that's so interesting, but they're not coming to your website to learn about the history of your company.
Right.
They're coming to your website to see if you can solve their problems. So positioning yourself as a guide, you show empathy and say, I understand what you're going through. And then authority is, I help business owners like you every day. So it's a way to talk about yourself without being like, hey, look at me, So the third thing would be kind of take an audit and see, are you talking about yourself in a way that's attracting customers, or in a way that's like, oh, great, like,
here's why
be
I'm
with
awesome.
You on your journey.
Yeah.
Like, you're not the one to guide me to what I need to get to.
Yeah. I'm like literally doing a mental audit of my website right now and of all the stuff that I put out. And I think this is going to be something I'll be working on. So you've had massive experience, and as an entrepreneur too, if there is something that you were like, man, I wish I had known this in the beginning legally, or maybe legal implementations that you did do in the beginning, you're like, thank God I did them then. So could you share that with us?
So I think starting my business, I wish I had known more about each of the entities that you can create. So whether it's LLC versus S Corp versus, which I'm an S Corp. Awesome. I still don't really know what that is. I just know that I have to check that box when I like do my taxes and stuff. I just wish I knew more about that, because it is a little daunting when you do get to tax time and there's just a lot of information and it seems to always be changing. So I wish I knew just more about each of those little things. Contracts. So I know I need help with that. So I will be contacting you. Also your shop, that's going to be so helpful. The templates.
Yeah.
So contracts and just things that, every time you post something, by the way, like, I did not know that. Like every single time. I didn't know that was needed. Awesome. Okay. Like basically my extent of knowledge is like, you can't just put people on your email list. Like you have to.
You should request it. Be okay with it.
Request it. Yeah. That's my extent of law knowledge.
Well, it's good, but it's good business practice. You can definitely have them there, but the nice thing to do is, hey, you're on this list. If you want to unsubscribe, do it now.
Exactly. Yeah.
Now we're going to talk about like a fun facts about you. So what is your favorite book?
Ooh, my favorite book. I loved Redeeming Love.
Oh.
It's by Francine Rivers. I love that. It's a very romantic book, and I've read it 3 times and I've bawled each time. It's just really sweet. It's a good book. So I love that book. Yeah.
And what's your favorite blog or magazine or podcast?
Okay, let's see. Magazine, I love Real Simple.
I love them.
Yeah. So they just always have pretty things, but it's practical and, fun.
It's real simple. Exactly.
It's real simple. Yeah. Exactly. It's real simple.
And then do you have any favorite business tools or apps that you can suggest?
Let me see. I love Loom.
Loom is great.
Loom is great. You can record yourself with your video screen or your computer screen or just your computer screen.
How can the listeners get in touch with you? What can they do to follow you? And if they want to join your course, how do they do that?
Yeah, so I hang out on Instagram a lot. So Bird and Hyssop, BirdandHyssop. So that's my Instagram handle. That's where I am mostly.
I'll definitely put all the links in the show notes.
Okay.
And that way anybody can reach you. And I'm just so excited to hear more about your coaching and just to see all the ways you grow. Thank you so much for being on the show today.
Thank you so much for having me. It's so fun to talk to you.
Likewise. I really enjoyed.